Hello, and welcome to the special edition of Book Banter. Today, I'm being joined by a few early readers to chat about my latest novel, Welcome to the Hamilton. So, if you're watching live on Facebook and wish to ask any questions or just say hi, please feel free to do so and comment in the Facebook comment section there, and we'll do our best to get to your comments. So let's welcome our special guests. Carrie Wojak. Carrie has been an avid reader since childhood. As with most, she has always enjoyed the way that a book can transport you to another place and time. In high school, bringing stories alive on the stage was a passion, but then adult responsibilities of raising two boys became her priority. Returning to university with her two grown sons, Carrie has started her next chapter and loves to inspire a passion for learning and reading in her primary school students. Now, she's going to be shy about this. I'm going to bring her up here. Hello, Carrie. She is going to be shy about this, so I'm going to add that Carrie is an exceptionally talented actor whose ability to transform herself on the stage is beyond anything I have ever seen. She's portrayed Helen Keller and who was the other? I had it in my mind last night. Now I can't think of who it was.
Anne of Green Gables.
Anne of Green Gables. That was it. Anne of Green Gables. Two very different characters, and yet stunning, absolutely stunning. And she also happens to bake the best treats in the world. And and those littles that she teaches are some of the luckiest children to have her attention upon them. So welcome, Carrie, and thank you for joining us.
I'm more than thrilled. If we were going to ad-lib all of our wonder things, I would have made a list of all the wonderful things about you. But I guess we're all here today because we all know the wonderful things about you and the amazing creations that you put out into the world for us.
Oh, thank you. Our next guest, Carla Calvert. Carla considers herself a lifelong word wrangler and a chronic non-finisher, as she is forever writing a novel or several at once. She says meeting me at Historical Novel Society Conference in 2019 was a kismet moment when she realized that her and I were also kindred readers and soon became dear writerly friends. Carla is now finishing articles on Medium as she stares down her novels, willing one of them to be in the hands of readers soon-ish. Let's welcome Carla to Book Banter. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here.
Thank you for joining us. Now, we can find you on Medium, which I don't know your handle for Medium. So what's that?
It's just Carla Calvert.
Perfect. And you've written a ton of posts on there, so definitely check those out. And Instagram is author Carla Calvert.
Yes.
Perfect. We do have Irene Scott hopefully joining us as well today, but she's currently in technology jail. So if Irene joins us, I will add her to the stream as well. So first of all, let's raise a glass. Release week. Oh, look at the fancy glasses. None of this is alcohol. It's 9 a.m. 9:30 in the morning. So this is juice.
It's 12:30 here, but it's still just, yeah.
You could drink. So cheers. So thank you, everybody.
Cheers to Tanya.
Before we dive in, I'm going to just give a little reader behind the scenes. This is actually Blood Orange San Pellegrino. Now, if you're looking for it in the store, you have to just look for the picture of the oranges because the label is all in Italian. So just look for the picture of the oranges. But there will be a special cocktail for the Hotel Hamilton in book 3 that involves Blood Orange San Pellegrino. So
Ooh, advanced info tidbits. Love it.
Yes, and book 3.
Book 3, yes. Yes. I know book 2 needs to actually happen first. I can count. So what are your first thoughts? Who wants to start? Don't everybody jump at once.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to get all my enthusiasm into a concise sentence. Tanya knows, she's known me for nigh on almost 37 years, and every book gets better and better and better and better and better. And I think the foundation that you have laid down in this novel for the series is absolutely rock solid. You've got
good.
us, our interest is piqued on
Mhm.
that period in Vancouver, which just has not been explored a lot in historical fiction. So that's really exciting. I think for readers all over the world, Vancouver is a tourist destination for people from all over the world. So I think that is fantastic. The era itself, the 20s, we normally look at the Belle Epoque or in Paris or Hemingway's origins in the States or something to that effect.
Mhm.
But this is a very different situation in the 20s. And I think both of those piqued my interest, and I want to see where these characters go and how they engage with the environment, both politically and physically. I mean, that Hotel Hamilton is just such a beautiful setting to explore and to want to spend more time in.
Oh, excellent. Good news. I was worried about that.
I agree. I agree with everything Carrie is saying, especially the foundation that you have laid. Because when I finished, came to the end of it, there has to be more. You've engaged, you have your readers engaged in these characters, and you have several. I want to know what's going to happen with all of them. I see stories, for all of those characters, and I went into this, and I do this a lot when I'm reading, especially other writers' work. I try to go into it blind. I want to have that experience, that first experience as a reader, and to turn the writer brain off. And I will say, I got to the end. I did not realize that the Hotel Hamilton was not a real place.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, yay!
Yes. I'm trying to Google the thing. Yeah.
Which I'm going to stay there.
So you did a wonderful job. I mean, I could see it. I could feel it, especially, the standing in the V and everything. That was, that was just such a Edwardian, and even into the 20s, as far as the staff, of grand places. And so I thought you did just a wonderful job, and I'm ready. You said book 3. Okay, come on, let's have book 2. So I don't know how you're going to overachieve on the next cover, because this cover is absolute. I have to start with that. The cover is absolutely gorgeous. It is gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. So
I love the cover.
I'm not sure where you're gonna go from there, because it's just beautiful, Tanya. It's just absolutely beautiful. But the story, you laid your foundation, and especially I think when you're writing a series, that first book, it's hard to make sure you're doing that, and you did that. You did that without it being overkill, without it being too much just an info dump. It wasn't, and you laid the foundation, and you created some intriguing characters that well done.
Thank you. I'm really pleased to hear that, because I just, in my brain, because I always knew it was a fictional hotel, I just assumed everybody would think it was. So that's really good.
Let me just say, I'm on the other side of this continent. I mean, we are literally like catacornered, probably, so because I'm in Central Florida. So I will say too, I had to pull out good old Google Maps, and when you mentioned the ocean, I'm thinking, oh, Vancouver's on the ocean. I didn't know this. Sorry. I think my only intro to Vancouver, besides you talking about it, has been Candace Cameron Bure. I think that's where she goes to make all the Hallmark movies, is in Vancouver.
Oh, that's right. Yes. Yes, that's right. Yes.
That's about as much as I knew about the area. So
we did have the Olympics, and twice, didn't we have the Olympics twice?
I was buried in a book. I was buried in a book.
We had a World Fair too.
Oh, yeah.
Best people watching ever.
Yes.
Well, I would like to actually, at that opportunity, talk about the cover a little bit, because this was like the best day ever making this. So it all came together. It was months and months of planning, but it literally all came together so perfectly. I don't think I've ever had such a perfect day. And that's saying something, because I've been married and had a child. So. But it was like watching all the things in your head come to fruition, and to have 4 people working together for the same goal to make it all happen, it was like watching your book become a movie. And I hadn't even finished writing it yet. So we had a cover shoot downtown Vancouver, and we traipsed all over the place. And Carrie was there doing absolutely everything, including asking strangers to move out of the way.
You got to do what you got to do to get that shot.
That's right. That's right.
But in true, kind Canadian, polite style, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think the guy thought we were nuts what we were doing, but and we had the most fabulous model, Emily. And my husband was actually the photographer. That is his hobby. And he was so patient, so very patient. And he just took photo after photo after photo, and we kept going until I had what I wanted. And we literally, I think we've got about 16 cover photos ready to go that I then send to my cover designer, the very, very talented Anna, who is makes a beautiful photograph a stunning cover. So I've already seen the next one. I love it. It was actually my favorite in terms of the idea in my head for the photo shoot. So, and it's actually, it's almost ready, but the book is not. So, there's that. But so that's what we did. We actually took all of our own photos so that Anna has free reign to work with whatever. So
Excellent.
So good. Very exciting. So, okay. So one of the questions I got was, who is your favorite character? So I'm going to ask you guys, who was your favorite character? I know, right? I like this part of this person and this part of that person.
No, I would definitely have to say Clara, our protagonist. She was strong and loyal, bound to a vow of type she had made to her mother, but so bound. She ended up just so terribly bound for part of the book, to the point where you're like, come on, Clara, you can do it. Let's make these realizations. Let's make these leaps. Let's make these growths. And you just found yourself cheering for her to make this journey.
Absolutely.
Which you so beautifully revealed at the end that she had, to her own like soul disturbance, to her own, it was so rough for her to make these realizations at the end. But
she was
so
hard on herself.
worthwhile. She was so hard on herself. So I think seeing that grand from just being trapped into this world of possibilities for the rest of the series is just a beautiful thing to see her grow like that.
Yeah, I agree. How about you, Carla?
Clara, definitely. I mean, it was great to see her growth. Louisa, I thought Lou did some growing too. Cookie, I think you've got the beginning of a character there that I saw her as, I guess in my mind, as a Mrs. Patmore from Downton.
Yes.
With just that quick wisdom, the quick wit, but with loaded with wisdom. Not a whole lot of words, but I think you created a character there that intrigued me, and so I can't say that she's definitely she's one of the favorites, but they were all. I mean, even Jane intrigues me. I want to see what's going to happen with
why Jane is the way she is.
Yes, definitely. So I mean, it's hard to pick. I mean, Clara, of course, is the star of this book, so we'll give it to Clara.
So funny enough, Cookie is my number 2 favorite, and it's because I have one of her in all of my novels pretty much, and I think it's a nod to Mrs. Boyd back from Becoming Mrs. Smith. And Mrs. Boyd, I feel like Mrs. Boyd is still in my life, even though I know she's fictional. So I'm not delusional. I just, I just know that she's, so I kind of try to take that type of character and put her along, because I think every person has somebody in their world that is that, like you say, quick advice, but a warm embrace, but not too mushy, but just kind of stoic person for them. And so she's my second. My first is Ms. Thompson. I love her character. She's no nonsense. She gets stuff done, but her deep level of concern and care for the girls that are in her charge is something that just kind of sticks with me. So I couldn't choose between the sisters, which is why I didn't. So, but I also know where the story's going. So I'm a couple of books ahead of you guys in my brain. So isn't that interesting? So this was a great question. And it's one I think that we can all relate to. This was really great. In the novel, Louisa informs Clara that the meal she's been making, like clockwork for their father, is one he doesn't enjoy. Have you ever made a meal for someone you loved and later found out that they didn't like that meal? And I'm like, yep.
Oh, yeah.
Just last week, my child told me he does not like lasagna. And I'm like, who doesn't like lasagna?
And we need to, of course, say the child is not of childhood age.
No, he's 22. he can't have his own decisions and his own likes and dislikes. I was just like, really? Huh. It's not like I make lasagna every week or anything. It's like maybe 3 times a year. But I just thought that was funny. So have you guys ever been in that situation?
With 5 children, yes. So, and I had a sign in my kitchen that said, this isn't Burger King. You don't get it your way. So
that's good.
Yeah. So, because you end up being a short order cook. I'm trying to remember. I mean, we have, I guess my kids and I have a lot of foods that we attach, not bad memories, but like memories that it's like, oh no, never again. Yeah. Because so things like that. But yeah, I like that part of the book. I did think that was interesting. It was a good catch. And it just shows us how we think, we're doing something for someone out of love and not even realizing that, or not even out of love, out of repetition, out of thinking this is just what we do, and So I'm trying to think. I mean, not necessarily one in particular comes to mind, except for tuna fish casserole. If I ever was, I will never make that again. But my kids and I are both like,
really?
Just the name of it just makes us all go,
yeah. That's funny. How about you, Carrie?
Oh, yes. Well, I have a blended family. So my husband has 2 adult sons. I have 2 adult sons. And of course, everyone has their own picky interests. So Tanya well knows that negotiating meal times at my house is a litany of, okay, I can't do that, but I could leave that out of this. So trying to negotiate it before they all say is a time-consuming process. But there's this one dish everyone agrees was just the bomb of all bombs of my meal. I made a homemade sauce, sweet and sour for Asian stir fry. Apparently it was the worst thing in the world, but my youngest son was super hungry, so he wolfed it down and didn't say anything. My husband is very respectful of the time I take to cook, so he ate it and didn't say anything. But then his youngest son went, I don't know if I can do this. And so 5 years later, it goes down. People talk about, well, at least it's not that sweet and sour chicken. It wasn't bad, but at least it wasn't that sweet and sour chicken. Yeah, that was
it's
the
like
biggest.
Creating a bar. You see, here's a really good case in point where Carrie is so much more a better person than me. Because I wouldn't be going, well, I can't make that because this. I would just be like, this is dinner.
Have it. You don't get it your way. You get it my way. Here it is. So
Yeah.
take it or leave it.
And anybody else knows where the kitchen is, and they're welcome to
Right.
cook.
Right.
But no, I mean, that's funny because, of course, Clara didn't have a lot of choice in the groceries she could afford when she was shopping
No.
for meals. And so she was doing the best she could.
That's true.
But yeah, even that, that was a very cute little stark moment. Oh dear.
Well, and it gave the father some added personality as far as what he has, he was having his own journey and dealing with his own struggles and the things that he probably just didn't want to make a big deal about, he didn't want, because he recognized what she was doing, so I thought that was a good insight into his heart. He may have some bumps that he's going through right now, but I think I don't know what you're going to do with him, but I hope.
Yeah.
I thought he had a good heart.
He does have a good heart.
Okay.
He does have a good heart.
Okay.
Yes, he does. He does. And I think that's exactly what I was trying to get at, is that family isn't just one-sided.
Mm-hmm.
It
Very
is a group of individuals who are all very different, living under the same roof, and all of them are shrinking and growing and fitting in where they can in order to make a family work.
Mm-hmm.
And that was sort of so yes, you got it.
Mm-hmm.
I like it when readers get it.
Yeah.
So do you have any questions for me?
Well, I read in the author's notes that you had been on a walking tour of Vancouver. Can you describe a little more in detail about what you saw and how it inspired you to do a hotel-based series, or was it chicken and an egg situation where you'd already made that decision?
I had already made the decision. I had COVID was very restrictive in terms of what we could do, which is why I chose Vancouver, actually, because I knew I wasn't going to travel anywhere. So Vancouver's about 40 minutes without traffic from where I live, and I had already decided. I'd actually already written the novel, to be honest, and until I went on that tour with John Aitken. He is a local historian who is so much fun to hang out with because he knows all the things that I want to know. And we really only spent, I think we were like together for 2.5, 3 hours, but we covered not more than 3 blocks because we stuck to the area of where the Hamilton would have existed. Mm-hmm. And because there was the Hotel Vancouver's had 3 iterations. And the first hotel, I knew exactly where it was, the grand opening of it, everything like that. You could see it from the port and the rail. Like that was sort of like, oh, that's what we must walk to, kind of. It was a Canadian Pacific hotel and railway hotel. And that's kind of the point. You've just traveled in on our lines. Now come stay at our hotel. So I knew where that was. But for the life of me, I could not pin down the second hotel. There was no grand opening. There was no event. And I'm like, okay, I can't just leave it out of the story because it's a massive building that has huge significance later on in the years. And and John was able to confirm for me after I'd written the novel that the Hotel Vancouver didn't have a grand opening really because they added on. So it was the architect who had done the Parliament buildings in Victoria. He had added on this square boxy thing that didn't really fit. And then they continued on and sort of built this other building. But instead of any kind of opening, they just kind of morphed. And it was on the same block of Granville, but it was just on the other side, like just down the same block. Like one was on one corner, the second hotel was on the same side, same street, everything, but the other corner. And so when I realized that the sisters would actually be walking directly past the hotel every single time, I was like, oh, it was one of those facepalm moments where you go, okay, I need to go back and add in the Hotel Vancouver, because how could you not notice this mammoth of a building? Mm-hmm. So that was the biggest thing that I'm so glad that I kept digging for. But it was next to impossible to find out. So thankfully, John knew the answer to that. But he also showed me around back of where the Hotel Hamilton would have been was the Opera House. And I'd forgotten about the Opera House. So that might just make an appearance somewhere. And we talked a lot about the courthouse, which is now the art gallery. And interestingly enough, there is some rumor and talk that the art gallery is going to be moving out of that building at some point. I think we've been hearing about this for like 7 years, so I'm not sure when that's actually happening. But they're going to be moving out, and there's been some talk about putting the courthouse or court proceedings back into that building. And I think that would be fantastic. Yeah, that'd be awesome. I'd love that. And then the best part of the tour, really, which was to me fascinating, because we were in the Hotel Vancouver, the 3rd edition of the Hotel Vancouver. And we didn't actually go down to the very basement while we were there. But in the very basement, John showed me the elevators are original. All the facings, the moldings, the floor, the whole causeway is original. And it is like stepping back in time. And it was built, it started being built just before the Depression, and then it paused for a bit. And then as sort of a make work project, they started creating it again, and it opened later in the 30s. So it's quite fascinating. So hotel number 2 will make an appearance in book 3 as well. So I clearly have a much better handle on book 3 than I do on book 2. Book 2 is more about society. So, but it was a great tour, and I highly recommend. John actually does tour groups, and you can, if anybody needs his contact information, don't hesitate to reach out. Yeah, he's a great tour guide.
Fantastic. That is so great. So that was part of your research process. What was the most surprising thing you discovered throughout your process? And was there anything that you couldn't include in the book that you were really hoping to?
I originally wanted, so in the very, very beginning, I wanted this to be set at the Hotel Georgia. That was my dream. It's a beautiful hotel. It's so stunning. But I went through, I legally, I don't know where the bounds are in terms of that. Like if I said, he called a book Georgia Girls or something like that, then I don't want to infringe on somebody else's rights. I mean, as a writer, I'm quite aware of copyright, and I don't want to steal from anybody, basically. So I reached out to the hotel, their management, their legal department. That I went through the ranks. It's now owned by the Rosewood Group, so it's quite a bit bigger. And sadly, nobody got back to me in the time frame that I needed, which was like 6 months. So I went, okay, new plan. And so then I just fabricated a hotel, which was fun too.
Well, that's where my question came from. It was from a writer's perspective. What did it look like to create that fictional place? Were you wary of any of the legal ramifications as far as if you had gone with, the which it sounds like you did, and that's one of the things that probably led to the fictional. But how much work do you have? Did you have this hotel drawn out in your mind on paper? Do you know all the things about it? How much did you do with that?
I do know all the things about it. So it was inspired. The shape of the hotel was inspired by the Hotel Regina in Saskatchewan, because it is actually the shape of an H.
Oh, wow.
And that was just me looking at hotel front images on Google. And I saw this beautiful hotel, and then I started digging into its history, and I'm like, oh, I love it. It's so cool. And then and then Hamilton and the H, and it just kind of all fit. And I think I took inspiration for the interior from the era itself. So I've been to a lot of old hotels. That's kind of, I like to see old buildings. So I wanted it to feel like you were there. I wanted it to, you feel the warmth of the wood, and it's just that it's like so rich and dark and cozy. And Vancouver, it rains a lot, so big fireplace was a necessity, that kind of thing. And I think that creating it fictionally it worked out to be the best thing in the end. But I do know all the floors of the hotel in my head. I should probably write it down somewhere. That would be a good idea. I probably know the hotel better than I remember the character's hair color and eye color. That's how ingrained the hotel is for me.
So the hotel has become a character. You have created
It is
an additional character there.
Yeah, and I think that's where my stories start. My stories always revolve around family, but I think they start with a building, because I have this notion that the walls are witness to our lives, and they see what happens, and they feel, and it's like spandex, right? They hold that memory of how we've grown and changed and shaped. And so that's kind of, I think that's why it always starts with a building for me. And usually it's a real building.
Yeah. Well, and you mentioned the name Hamilton. You already had the name when you discovered the H style hotel?
They kind of came in like literally at the same time.
Was that just like a, goosebump moment? I mean,
it absolutely was, because it needed to have an elevated name. But at the same time, because I'm Canadian, it didn't actually hit me like Hamilton, Hamilton. The musical, the Alexander.
Yeah, that just hit me. Did you see that moment happen right now? Because it's like, oh yeah, that's right.
And it was another author friend of mine that said, "Are you sure you want to do that?" Because the first thing I thought of was like Alexander Hamilton, and now that song is going to be running through my head. But but I was so attached to it by then that I just couldn't let it go. And I'm like, no, but it's the Hotel Hamilton.
Right.
So I don't know if we would have known as in that time period the importance of Hamilton, Alexander Hamilton, or anything like that. So I had to stick with it. And yeah, usually when it's that strong in my gut, then I know that I have to stick with it. Yeah.
It works.
It does work. It does. I think because the font is so pretty. That's what I'm in love with, the font, and I have no idea what font it is, but I just love it. So yeah. So it's going to be the Hamilton forever.
Yeah. Well,
sorry.
Go ahead. I was just going to say, and it stands out. And again, until you said that about Hamilton, it's never.
That's good.
To me. Yeah. No.
That's a really good thing.
The Hotel Hamilton, you've created an entity. You've created the perspective there that it stands alone, and so I don't think you have to worry about that.
Excellent. That's good news, because I was worried that it would, because of course the production is still very popular and it's a wonderful production. So there was actually a real hotel on the site that I put the Hamilton Hotel. There was an actual hotel. But it was kind of almost like a boarding house. It was called the York, and it was a place for staff to stay that worked at the Hotel Vancouver. And or like over accommodation and things like that. But that was a hard piece of information to find too.
So it was more steerage accommodations.
Yeah, that's right. Yes.
Okay.
Good way to put it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And it was, and the reason I saw the location was it said hotel on a 1927 map. And so I was like, okay, I know it can go there. It's now a parking garage for Nordstrom, but it can go there. So yeah, it would have been shrouded by the Hotel Vancouver still, but yeah, I like my little hotel. It's a happy little bubble in my mind.
And in the world you're creating, it could far surpass the grandeur and prestige of the Georgia and the Hotel Vancouver.
It could. It definitely could. It's the Georgia was so well known for its celebrities, and there was a lot of musicians and a lot of actors and a lot of all the prince and queen and all of those people have all come through the Georgia, and it's a pretty cool place. In fact, I had planned to run this series all the way through to 1957-ish, and I know that was we'll see if that happens, but that was my original thought. And the sole reason, and this is an odd reason to pick, but the sole reason that I picked that end date was because that was when Elvis came.
There you go. There you go.
So
if Elvis has left the building, that's a great ending point.
Right?
There you go. Yes.
Really, enough said at that point.
Yeah, yeah. You've got what, 30 years or so to
exactly.
go. Yeah, you've got a lot of territory to cover, but when Elvis leaves the building, then you know it's time to move on. Yeah, yeah.
I think we're able to welcome Irene here.
Oh, good.
Let's see. Oh, I've had her join, but we have a blank screen. I can see her on the little icon, but we'll leave her up and see if she pops in. So yeah, so that was the hotel.
So exciting. And it's so exciting to see what adventures are going to happen in the bedrooms and the hallways and the cloak cupboards and there's so many possibilities. The kitchens.
Yes. Yes, the chef. I have to bring the chef back, I think. Mm-hmm. He captured me because he was so funny. And I think that everybody will sort of get in turn and have a little, it won't always be Clara and Louisa. It will cycle through, so you get to highlight some of the other characters' lives and their viewpoints and things like that. It's just going to take a few books to get there, and
well, keep your readers wanting more, as you know.
Exactly.
Because it like I said, and Carrie said too, you laid the foundation, and so there's so many directions you can take this in, and
really
you know, the 30-year span, you've got, you know, just the opportunities of time and life that has had so much life happened in those 30 years. When you think of 1927 to 1957, I mean, just amazing, you know, opportunities, heart-wrenching, you know, like world events, you know, the Depression, the war, you know.
Yeah, things are about to get bad. Yeah.
Oh, more bad, not good. Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. they're about to get hard, but not until book 4. So I'm just gonna.
But I love that, and I've always loved that about your work, is that you create such positivity with really negative backgrounds.
Oh, that's good.
Whether it's a character creating a negative background, whether it is political circumstance creating that negative background, you have your characters go through such a journey into positivity and just a beautiful outlook for the future amidst and despite of challenges and whatever circumstances they may find each other. So I really, it's going to be a beautiful series, I can tell.
Thank you. I hope so. I really do hope so. It's there's a lot of social things to tackle, which that'll be a challenge, especially when in today's day, those social issues are actually still here, and they're stronger and rearing their head, and so I'm a little bit nervous, but at the same point in time, I can't speak for somebody who is a different ethnicity than me. That's not my job. I really can't speak for them, but I can speak for the questions that I feel characters who are of my social standing and ethnicity and lifestyle, how they might interpret and what they could do, or how they might feel, and how they question, how do they approach things, how do they do the right thing.
Right. Well, you hit on that as far as how we respond. You really hit with that with Clara, as far as when things happened, and we can't control other people's behaviors, but we can control our response and our reactions. And so the same thing with the topics you're talking about as a writer. Yes, those are tough to tackle.
They are.
But you can handle it from the perspective that you do know, and enlighten readers as far as all of those emotions and what they feel like.
And I think that it kind of makes it okay. Like if a reader can read something and understand that, okay, so they're being uncomfortable with racial issues, for example, is not unlike many other people who are also uncomfortable, but also don't know what to do or how to proceed or how to be inclusionary and respectful and all of those things that we strive to do as humans. But there's never one right way that's going to fit for anybody, because the only thing that we have in common is that we're human. And that should be enough. That should be enough. But as we've seen, it isn't.
Well, we can always learn, and that's what your books are showing us, is a perspective, and how to learn from that perspective and go forward, because that's all we can do with history. History, unfortunately, is repeating itself at times, but as we move, we can learn from it and be aware. And I think awareness is also, even in fiction, I think that's one of the greatest gifts that fiction brings, is an awareness of situations that maybe we weren't privy to, that we did not understand or know about. And so that's where fiction can just open that doorway.
I agree.
To understanding.
I agree. I think it's a safe way to learn. It hurts less. It's just like a character stubbing their toe. It doesn't hurt you, but you feel their pain. So it's that kind of thing. So I agree. I don't think I could ever just write solely for entertainment. I have to write for purpose and entertainment. So
I agree. Okay, that's where the historical fiction comes in, because there's always lessons from history, and so not that there's not lessons in contemporary fiction or women's fiction, but I think especially with historical fiction is just in bringing those lessons forward and have it being purposeful. Entertaining, yes, but with a purpose and with the heart behind it.
I agree. And those are the ones that make me feel, make me think. Those are the ones that I love the most. Yeah, for sure. That being said, I always ask people this question when I have them on Book Banter. What's on your bedside reading table?
Well, besides yours that I finished last night on my Kindle, my latest, which I'm late to the club, but I stayed up way too late last night. That's why the extra.
I
don't know why I waited so long. I don't know. You get into these moods, especially with World War II books, because I'm such a World War II, just love that era, love the lessons and the history, but man, can Kate weave stories. I mean, she's just amazing. So I've got that much more to go.
Excellent. You'll be reading today.
And I'm listening to it too. So I'm like going back and forth. And it's one of those things when you get a good narrator that I will probably read to the last chapter and then I want to hear it because, I've
Yes.
connected with those voices and I want to hear the end of the story and the voices. But that's besides everything else I'm reading right now. There's lots of Fitzgerald books and you don't want to know about those. But, although it is the 20s, I'm deep into the 20s, and you've made me wonder. It's like, oh, did Scott ever go to Vancouver? I'm going to have to look that up. That'd
be a great tidbit to know.
Yeah, might make an appearance at the Hamilton.
Wouldn't that be fun?
Yeah.
Oh, that would be fun.
So the Rose Code has been on my nightstand.
Nice. How about you, Carrie?
I don't have it to hand, but I'm reading Hazel Gaynor's The Lighthouse Keeper's Daughter.
I know. So good. So good. Love. One of my favorites. Yeah, I agree.
Yes.
I am reading The Book of Lost Names by Kristen Harmel.
Oh, that's It's wonderful. It's wonderful. It's wonderful.
All of her books are.
Yes.
I love her books. They're again, there's that lesson there. There's meat on it, but it's so beautifully written, and you feel like you're there. I love to be transported.
Yeah, she does such a wonderful job. The Room on Amelie.
Yeah,
oh my goodness,
that one. That up there. Yeah,
I kept waiting for the characters from that and the Nightingale to like intermingle because
right.
The same things. And then there's another book called Becoming Clementine by Jennifer Niven. That's all six of the couples or six of the protagonists need to like interchange. Yeah. Because I'm like, wait,
somewhere in the backwoods of France.
Yes, they're on the same street. But Kristen does. She also weaves a wonderful story and place. She's very, very talented in making you just feel the place. You're right there walking those streets. So
exactly, you do feel like you've traveled, and it, a book costs a whole lot less than an airplane ticket. So
that's right. I've been to Vancouver, and I still want more. So
you're gonna have to come back.
Yes. Now that I know it's on the coast, I had no idea. So.
We have ocean all around us, but our oceans do not have alligators in them.
Well, the oceans don't, just the lakes. Yeah, no, the oceans have sharks here. So
yeah, I've never seen a shark here, but
probably a little cold for them.
There's probably some, but probably not the same kind. Like I think there's probably like nurse sharks and stuff like that, maybe. But I used to open water swim, and I've never seen a shark. So
okay, I've seen plenty. So. So the alligators are a daily thing with me.
Oh my gosh, the alligator thing is the reason I won't live in Florida. Well, that and I'm not American, but nobody will let me live in Florida.
I don't know. Hang on. Won't go there. So.
The alligator thing is a good reason to not. However, spring training happens to be there too. So,
that's true. That's true.
There's that. So funny enough, one of the questions was that Clara brings a novel with her to the interview, and somebody asked me what I imagined her reading, and it was actually, for me, she was reading The Great Gatsby. Because Clara and both Louisa and Clara love the library, because the library in Vancouver was a Carnegie library, and it's a beautiful building. And so Clara reads all the latest popular fiction of 1927.
Okay, we'll have to talk about that.
I think so.
I'm gonna make a note.
Okay. Oh, good.
Yeah. So, Carrie, I'm working on a outline at this point, not actually staring down the novel. The summer that Gatsby was written. So,
fantastic.
Yeah. Fitzgerald is my favorite, so my all-time favorite. So I'm very much into Gatsby. So yeah, we'll talk about that because there's some. We'll talk about Gatsby and how it went out of print and wasn't always available. Yes.
Uh-oh. Shoot.
Yeah.
so she
Yeah.
may not have been
You're
reading
okay.
it.
You're okay.
Okay.
You're okay.
Oh, okay. I was like, I was pretty sure it was in print then.
27, it was still because it was published in
Whew.
25. So you're good.
Yeah.
You're good. And that's what I'm wondering. It's like, okay, so, as far as like the trickle effect with publishing, what was that like in
Yeah.
the 20s? Because, we didn't have social media to say, hey, the
Right.
book was released today.
Oh,
And,
exactly.
and then how long did it take for books to make their way from,
Oh, quite a while.
yeah, from Scribner's in New York to Vancouver.
Yes.
So yeah, 27, it might have been yeah. So
It would have been about the right time
Yeah.
period for it to arrive here. We were always usually a little bit delayed, even though, so I mentioned in the author's notes how connected Vancouver was. It was a linchpin to global trading. And so we had access to, like Australian beef and everything like that. So and it was quick. And so really interesting that it's a fascinating thought to realize that even back then, Vancouver was this bustling city. And so it really hasn't changed in that regard, which is pretty cool.
Yes,
I
that
think.
is. That is. It brings a lot of history, especially for those of us who maybe are not familiar with the history. You've got a lot of area.
Which is funny because Vancouver is the new kid on the block in Canada. So most of our Canadian history is back east.
Yes.
So, if you want to see history, you go to Montreal, you go to the Maritimes and it's amazing. Great history there. But it's nice to see 20th century history ish in Vancouver. We have some beautiful buildings, that's for sure. So I've peeked in a lot of doorways. Every time I go by the Marine building.
And now you've added the Hotel Hamilton to the landscape of Vancouver's gorgeous skyline.
Yes.
Easiest build ever.
No permits required.
No inspections.
Oh, yes. There you go. Excellent.
So true. Do you have any other questions for me?
Well, I think you've answered the ones that I had sent you because I was asking about, is there a specific girl that we can look forward to? If there's more, but I think you've kind of hinted that we will hopefully see more of all of them. And I guess my one question would be back to the hotel or just back to your research. What one, from a historical, author perspective, what one research tool did you feel like you gained the most information and knowledge from with this? Because I know all of your books have been historical fiction, so we all use different things. Google Maps only takes us so far.
Yes, it's so true. Being close to the location definitely helped. So one of the buildings, the Newbury, the apartment building that the family lives in is an actual building, and it still exists. And it's actually called the Manhattan. And so we would get up very early and drive down to Vancouver and wander around and just take pictures and get a sense of, I needed to walk the streets and know, is this doable? If I don't take the streetcar, can I get to the hotel? How long is it going to take me? And so we literally did that. And we walked all over Vancouver. And we did this on multiple occasions. And then when Carrie and I went to Vancouver for our Christmas gift to each other, I made her walk all over Vancouver again.
So you've walked the Hamilton route. Very good. Very good.
So it's one of those that I felt that was the most immersive for me. I was able to do that in Seattle for All That Was, and that was really, really beneficial. The other thing is the Vancouver Public Library 7th floor research librarians are amazing, amazing people who are so incredibly helpful. And you ask, I'm sitting at the computer going through reams and reams of old newspapers. But then a question just pops into my head, like, I'm seeing lots of advertisements for women, for girls' clothing, but I don't understand the sizing because they're like size 12, size 13, size 14 for girls' clothing. And so 10 minutes later, she comes back with printouts. Because way back then, their sizing was based on their age. If you were 12 years old, you wore a size 12. I'm like, I'm really glad we don't do that now.
Yes, please.
That would just be demoralizing.
Maybe it would start over, like only go up to a certain number and then you start
we only
over.
hit 30 and then we go back down.
Or then again, as librarians are the best. As my grandmother always said, if you saw the trend begin, you cannot wear it again.
Oh, that's a really good point.
Yeah, if you saw the trend begin, you cannot wear it again. So
I like that.
So those cool plaid pants that are out at Target, they were so 1970s. I guess I can't, I mean, that was my high school wardrobe.
I actually really
I kind of
firmly. Do you? Because I firmly believe the 70s should not come back for fashion.
Well, I'm probably a little bit older, so that was my teenage years. So I love the 70s, but there's only parts of it. The Marsha Brady look of the 70s,
right?
Yeah,
yeah, exactly. So it's quite. But I thought that was really, really cool. And they literally, different librarians would pop by and say, "Are you doing okay? Do you need any help?" I'm like,
oh, that's great.
They're so fabulous, and you should really follow them on Instagram. Because librarians, but the Vancouver Public Library. Let me see if I can quickly find it while we chat, because they do Face Friday, and they're amazing.
Oh, wow.
Let's see if we can find it, and I can put it in the Vancouver Public Library. So it's just Vancouver Public Library, and they do what they call Book Face Friday. It's definitely worth looking at. Vancouver Public Library. I wonder if I can put a comment in. You know what? I'll put it in below afterwards, because I don't know how to do it live. One step beyond my technical skills. But they'll start with holding a book up. And this week's was holding a book up of a couple dancing, and then a couple dance as they move the book away. It's amazing. So
that is amazing.
So and Diana asked, how big can your bell bottoms get?
Call them elephant feet. The ones that were really, really wide, those were elephant feet.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, elephant feet, bell bottoms, but of course they were hip huggers too. So there's more at the bottom than there was at the top.
Oh, well, that's just an illusion, right?
I don't know about that. But on the idea of fashion, besides your the library visits, was there any other research tools that helped you with like the fashions from that time period?
I read a lot of books actually from the Vancouver Public Library on fashion in the era, and there is a website, I think, Vintage Dancer, that I go to a lot to look at what she shows. And then my author friend Kelsey Giddle is fabulous at sending me images for my era, and she'll just say, "I saw this," because she's randomly roaming the archives of something, and she'll like, "I thought of you," and we're both like, I wouldn't have thought that for the 20s. But it was kind of a little bit of everything went, which was interesting, because a lot of people think just the flapper thing and that, but it really wasn't just flapper. So, look at her. Thank you, Diana. Thank you. It was a whole range, and but it was like the dropped waist, but the skirt lengths were coming up, and it was really interesting, I have to say. The fashion is always fun, and it's important, but it can't be for me the only thing, because if I get too into the weeds, and you'll never get a story.
Well, you balanced it well. You did balance it well. And the 20s there's such a wide range as far as what fashion did when you think about before, right before the war, or as far as the U.S. going in the war, which is, 1917, 18. But
yeah, we were a part of that war too.
Right. But I'm just saying, for Europe, it started, 1914,
yes,
15.
That's right.
More of the Edwardian time. But when you think about even that 10 years from 1917 to 1927, what happened with fashion, with hairstyles, with women, I mean, that was just a huge decade of change as far as, and just independence, the whole bobbing the hair and just all those things.
That's exactly, that's it, right? It's it was kind of, the 20s were an era of pushing bounds in all ways. And it's funny that you say that, because I was actually concerned about writing a 1920s novel that didn't have the typical flapper lifestyle. But the flapper lifestyle wasn't necessarily the norm for everybody. Like, there were still housewives. There was, still young children and people just trying to make a living and things like that. So it's interesting, but it's also, it's almost like there's a daytime 1920s and a nighttime 1920s.
Well, and if you flash forward 50 years, going back to the 70s, or going forward to the 70s, it's the same thing with like the flower child hippie movement of the 70s, where that wasn't the only look. And even for the late 60s, that wasn't the only look. That wasn't the only, especially as far as fashion's concerned, that wasn't, but we kind of hang it on certain looks, like the flappers of the 20s. And so I think it's great that in historical fiction we can kind of, educate our readers that there was a different side, that this, there was, not just the norm, or that what you're accustomed to reading, here's what the rest of the world was doing.
It wasn't all glamour, right? It was exactly. It was real life.
Right. They weren't all drinking champagne at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So
no, as most of us still don't.
Yeah. Right.
Just saying.
Yeah.
I don't know that we want to.
Right. Well, even Zelda Fitzgerald, she was known as, the first flapper, but yet when you look at images of her, there's very few taken of her during the 20s that show her in that flapper look. She just looks like a
that's exactly
normal mom, at times. Not that, we'll leave it at that.
Yeah, right. Diana wants to go down memory lane with you in the 70s.
Hey, come on over. But just to give you even further, if you decide to go further with instead of When Elvis Leaves the Building, but the 70s, the fashions in the 1970s and fashions in the 1920s so mirrored one another. If you
really,
yes, and as far as if you look back at what was popular in the 70s and what became popular in the 1920s, very much
interesting.
And a lot of that has to do with Gatsby. I'll bring it back around.
Oh, wow.
1974 was when the second big Gatsby movie came out with Redford. And so there was a major fashion push as far as that type of styles.
So they started taking reminders from the era. And interesting. Yeah. That's interesting. I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Huh. Okay. Well, that's very cool.
Yeah.
I like the biographies on Fitzgerald. I like reading about their life and everything like that. Are you looking at
Diane's? Yes.
I think she means heart.
Yes. It's beating so fast. She
missed
right.
That's too funny. Well, we're coming up on an hour here. Well, actually just over. So I should probably let you guys carry on with your day. And thank you for celebrating with me. I'm going to grab my juice again. you for joining me. I really appreciate chatting with you, and thank you for reading my book and
It's been lovely.
supporting it.
Our
Thank you.
privilege, absolutely.
So cheers to you guys.
And cheers to you.
Cheers to you.
Thank you.
And to the Hamilton.
And to the Hamilton.
To the Hamilton.
So readers, have a good weekend. It's Friday here, so this won't be juice forever. Friday Night Wine Club is coming around the corner in a few hours, so grab a book and get cozy for the weekend. Bye, everyone.
Bye.